I'm excited to share with you all that I've contributed a chapter to the newly published Anxiety Relief Handbook. The handbook provides a unique window into 11 highly effective complementary therapies for you to sample on your quest to ease anxiety. The ebook is available on my website, happynurse.com.au/anxiety relief handbook.
I love working with particularly healthcare workers and other professional women and people in service, because we're very often drawn to really giving of ourselves. We have this sort of innate drive to want to do that, but often we can do it from a place where we're actually depleting ourselves. So my whole thing starts with me, how to burn bright without burning out.
Welcome to the Happy Nurse podcast. Nurses are the backbone of healthcare, always there to care for strangers as if they were one of their own, often forsaking special moments with their own family in order to ensure another's loved one is being cared for. As nurses, self-care is essential. I am Elena Mullery, nurse educator and self-care mentor for nurses. I'm an RN with 20 years of clinical experience. I have first-hand experience of stress and burnout. It was this experience which led me to develop a passion for personal development and pursue the study of mindfulness, meditation, hypnotherapy, and neuro-linguistic programming. Each episode, I will be promoting self-care strategies to those who always care for others. I have broken self-care down into 5 aspects: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and indulgence, to make it easy to ensure all your self-care needs are being met. Each episode, I will interview nurses and self-care gurus from around the world to help you with each aspect of your self-care. Welcome to the Happy Nurse podcast with Elena Mullery. Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. This morning I am joined by the lovely Lauren Bell. If any of you were at my Melbourne workshop last year, you would have met Lauren then. She came in and spoke a bit about what she does to us then and took us through an amazing tapping sequence. So I'll introduce Lauren quickly to you. Lauren is an RN and she believes money mindset and inner game specialist. She's fiercely committed to coaching heart-centered professional women who are feeling exhausted, frustrated and undervalued to confidently and authentically start asking for what they want. They earn a great income and thrive in life or business doing the work that is their divine purpose to share. Always passionate about health and wellness, Lauren's professional career includes over 30 years as an acute care registered nurse and a counsellor. She has combined this with a broad range of holistic therapies for the body, mind and spirit. Her qualifications include body talk practitioner, tapping into wealth coach, and transformation coach, and emotional freedom technique. Lauren has private and group coaching clients who work on all aspects of health and wealth mindset. Hello, Lauren. Thank you for joining us.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
To interview you.
Yeah.
We had great fun at Melbourne at the work.
It was lovely. It was lovely to meet you in person. You know, you feel like you get to know someone really quite well, and then you realise I haven't even actually met them physically, but you know, this sort of online connection can be so rich. It's great.
Yeah, it's so true because, well, I'm in Perth for people who don't know, and Lauren's in Melbourne. So we'd met virtually, and then we met for the first time when she came in and spoke at the workshop. So I'm going to run through a few quick questions and then I'll open the floor up to you. So I'm all about self-care. As you know, that is the premise behind Happy Nurse, promoting self-care strategies to our beautiful healthcare workers. What is an important part of your own self-care? I talk about non-negotiables. What's something that you try to endeavour to do every single day?
Yeah, I like the idea of non-negotiable too. For me, it's really about, it's sort of a combination. It's going for a walk. So it's moving my body out in, we've got a local area, it's called the Balboa Dell, and it's, you know, you would I'm in the suburbs, about probably 25 k's out from the city, but this is like a valley and really bushy, and so you would not know that you're in the city. And I take my dog, and my dog reminds me of how to be really present, because she goes running along so fast it's like she's got a big smile on her face, and she just shows me, what a joy it is. So going for a walk, moving my body, that bit of mindfulness, that sort of connecting with nature, it sort of helps me on that mental level, the emotional level, the physical level, and, even the spiritual level. So that's my really one thing to really go to is that. And I do like to meditate and do reflective exercises, but I'm a bit less disciplined with that. And if I do get to do that, it's like a real treat.
Awesome. I speak about moving meditation as well, though, like what you were speaking about with your walk with your dog, and you're being really present. That's almost like that. Well, it is a form of meditation, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you're being completely present and in the moment. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's beautiful. If you enjoy meditating, or you would like to give meditation a try, why not head on over to happynurse.com.au/meditation to download my free guided meditation for stress and anxiety relief. It's 12 minutes of pure self-care. So I created a model of self-care that breaks it down into 5 aspects. So you just touched on a couple there. They are the mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and indulgent parts of your self-care. So what is indulgent self-care to you, Lauren?
Indulgent self-care is something I really love, but I don't do very well because I tend to leave it until I'm on a holiday. Self-care is, when I shut down, I really turn off all the electronics, go on a holiday. It doesn't really matter where we go, but I do like nice accommodation, and I like to go out for nice dinners and have a drink nice wine and sort of spend that quality time with my partner. But it's also about alone time, so I'll still go for my walks. So it's that real bathing in the senses, and if it's a cold place, well, then making sure that I'm really warm with fires and rugged up. I actually hate feeling cold, but I love going to warm climates and having just being able to do whatever we feel like when we feel like it. So for me, that's the indulgent self-care, and I really recognise how important that is. Last year we went on a holiday, but it had been the first holiday that we'd had together really for about 2 years, and it was way too long in between. So try to get on those sorts of holidays and really indulge in all of that about at least once a year, but preferably more often with shorter breaks.
Yeah, beautiful. Who or what inspires you to be the best version of yourself? I always think that as nurses or healthcare workers, we should be trying to turn up as the best version of ourselves, because we're going into people who are feeling vulnerable and fearful already. So if we can be in a good space, then we're bringing that energy with us to them.
Yeah, I agree. I really questioned this a few years ago, actually, who I love being. And it's part of the work that I do too, is to really help people to tune into that. And I really recognise that who I love being is caring, kind, loving, respectful. And they're all definitely things that I bring through in my nursing. I always, I really believe in everyone having sort of equal access, and we're all different, we all have different opinions, we all have different circumstances, all of those things. So really believing in that. So I'm very spiritual. I do go to church sometimes, but I wouldn't say that I'm completely religious. I'm not so aligned with that, but in a way, just Jesus's example of that love, forgiveness, compassion, no judgment. He treated the lepers and, those types of things, but also standing up for what he believed in was right too. So not just accepting. Some people, when they say that they're spiritual, they sort of feel like they can't then arc up if there's something that's not right. But actually, there's definitely things that go on in the world that people need to take a stand over. So I think that ultimately for me, it's about showing up with love and trying to do it in every aspect of my being. I still get triggered, but that's sort of a commitment that I made to myself a few years ago.
Beautiful. And that compassion, it's so important. And I always say to everyone, you've got to offer yourself the same compassion you so freely give to others, because we're so good at giving it to everyone else, but not so good at showing it to ourselves. But that's where you come in. You're very good at teaching people how to nurture themselves and show themselves that compassion. So I'll let you take over the screen and you can share.
All right, well, this is just very quickly. Yeah, that self-care and compassion is a very big part of what I teach, really. And so my work is, lately this has been my sort of signature talk title, which is, it starts with me, which a lot of people feel like, that could be a selfish aspect, but I'll go into it in a second. But what I mean by that is, like, I really do need to start with me and look after myself first so that I can be really full and able to give in all the ways that I want to give. And so I love working with particularly healthcare workers and other professional women and people in service, because we're very often drawn to really giving of ourselves. We have this sort of innate drive to want to do that. But often we can do it from a place where we're actually depleting ourselves. So my whole thing starts with me, how to burn bright without burning out. And so this is really my journey, I guess. And so this is how I sort of came up with all of this work, and really understanding what's going on. I think for a lot of people was through what I went through and then how I sort of got out of it. So, yeah, I started nursing when I was about 18, and I always loved just being the best, the idea of being the best you could be. So I always had that holistic interest. I actually did train as a nurse in a hospital at Prince Henry's, which was the same as where Michelle trained. She's a few years ahead. But then when I had to go and do a bachelor, I chose the Bachelor of Applied Science in health promotion rather than nursing, because I love that idea of, like, how can we promote health? And so, and then traveling into holistic therapies and things like that. But sometimes when you're really idealistic, and another word for it is perfectionist. And I would never ever have admitted that I was a perfectionist, but actually just having this sort of way that I could see what I thought life and nursing and health and all of these things should be like. I had these dreams of what I could do to impact it. And so about 5 years ago, particularly, I took on some extra responsibility and had, once again, these real idealistic ideas of how I wanted to make changes. But I sort of found that, you're already in an established system and it's not as easy to do as what you think. But so I started to get to the point where I was feeling frustrated. I felt like I wasn't doing a great job for, my managers, what they wanted, and also what I wanted. So I was really starting to feel unfulfilled and getting increasingly more and more frustrated, just feeling unsupported. But also at the same time, I wasn't really tuned into what was going on for me. And so I was really running on a really empty tank. And the more you go down that line, the less you ask for help and the more you isolate yourself. And so it got to a point where I really did hit rock bottom. I felt like, for a start, that not just at work, but at home, with my kids, with my partner, with my work, everything in my life, I was doing it all, but I was overwhelmed by it and not doing any of it well. With the kids, they just leave the dishes on the sink, and I've got 3 boys, and they're, young men now, and they still leave the dishes on the sink. But, it was like it broke the camel's back. It was just too much. And I just was not happy with who I was and how I was reacting. And I got to this point where, I hit rock bottom, and I was actually sitting in my doctor's surgery, and I really liked my GP. And I was sort of telling him just what was going on and how stressed I really was. And, when you're really feeling that very vulnerable and emotional, and someone's being so kind and compassionate to you, that it just sort of breaks open your heart. And so I can remember I was sort of sitting there, tears running down my face. I can still feel it, actually, just sort of talking about it. But what I realised sitting in there and him just listening and allowing me that sort of space to understand what was really going on was that I was doing this to myself, that I wasn't listening to what my heart wanted. I knew really in reflection how unhappy I'd been, but I'd been caught up in being full-time job and security and all of those things that we so easily fall into. And we have responsibilities. But ultimately, I wasn't listening to myself. And so it was like I realized I wasn't self-caring. I actually wasn't. I was sort of self-neglecting. But even worse, like by doing this, it was more like self-abuse and self-sacrificing me in the process of it all. So what came next really was a total reflection, and I did a whole lot of soul searching, and that was a bit before that I was saying about really trying to understand, well, who is it that I love being? What is it that I want to do? Because I'd wanted to do this coaching business and had always had this interest in holistic health, but in my workplace, it's like I kept them very separate. So I was really only giving half of who I was. I was really censoring myself and the way that I could be. I'd be this person in one part of my life, and then in another part of my life, I was quite different. And it was just making me really, really unhappy. So through really taking responsibility for what was going on in my life and what I really wanted and how it was affecting, starting to become really honest, I was able to, and with the help of a coach, just take back that responsibility so that I could be, instead of being over responsible for everyone else and under responsible for myself, I could start to create the boundaries and the things that I needed. And then I got to this place where I feel like I'm soaring free. I'm so much more authentic and feel valued and just happy. And I'll go a bit more into that anyway. But so what it made me realize was, this bit about the self is so important. So I do think that this quote is really relevant by Steve Maraboli, which is that the most powerful relationship you will ever have is the relationship with yourself. That it does start with yourself. And then from there, you can then be so much more for everyone else. And so what I then discovered was these things that I needed to do to actually move me from that place of real rock bottom into the soaring free. And as I sort of mentioned, it was the self-honesty, really getting clear. And not just, it is all about self here too, but there is an aspect then of sharing that with others. So once I recognised what was really going on, then being able to be really honest at work, be really honest in my relationships and with my family, and start expressing what I really wanted. Also the responsibility, instead of being over responsible for everyone else, and understanding why I was so compelled to do that. But also if someone comes to me and wants help, which they do in my coaching, things like that, then that's a whole different story. But don't just assume that I can go in there and save the day. So trying to be everything for everyone else is a real issue that I think a lot of us who feel so compelled to care and do for others. So creating the boundaries, being able to say no, being more assertive, knowing what I wanted and asking for it. Beliefs was really interesting, what beliefs I was running. Actually, this whole idea of being really idealistic actually means that you have often a very strong inner critic running. And so you can be critical of others as well and situations, but it's really interesting. You often have more compassion for other people and more forgiveness to them, and yet you can be so cruel to yourself. So really understanding what beliefs I was running and changing them. We actually have the ability to change our beliefs. It is about shining the light on what's really going and then choosing differently. And so all of that gives you a lot more self-knowledge. But also I learned some tools. So this was when I really got stuck into the tapping work. And what tapping really helped to do is it reduces the whole stress response in the body and allows you to speak the truth of what's really going on for you. So when you speak the truth, it's a bit like tapping's a bit like combining Chinese medicine, tapping on acupuncture points with positive psychology. So it allows you to see what's going on. Once you remove the stress response, you actually get sort of more blood flow to the brain, more blood flow to the higher centres, the prefrontal cortex, rather than the fight and flight centre. And so you can start to see things from a new perspective, and things that you hadn't perhaps you can reframe things. Or what also happens is that memories can show up, that you can see how you're just running on old patterns and old behaviours that really have been going on since, probably even when you were a little child. And then from that place of acceptance of what's going on, you can start to then move into really self-kindness and self-compassion, and then even beyond to self-love. And what I love, which comes even next, is that real self-expression, so that you can be really authentic. And it's like you don't have to apologize for who you are. And I'm not saying that you then go around, stepping on other people's toes. As I said, my values are about caring, respecting, loving, all of those things. But rather than sacrificing myself in the process, it's about to be able to keep going. And then the self-compassion is really important, which if we can do kindly to ourselves what we do for others, I think all of us would be in a much, much better place. And so what's actually become of this is that soaring free that I spoke about. So I can access that inner happiness. I actually believe that our joy and our happiness is actually our natural states of being. It's just that we cover it up with so many limiting beliefs and experiences and things that we're still holding traumas in our body and in our energy field and in our, in our physical body as well. And so once we start releasing all of that, it allows us just to feel happy, just to access that natural state in ourselves. And instead of looking for external validation, you actually see it in yourself. So you don't need someone else to be telling you that you're doing an okay job, because when you really don't feel valued, you're looking for it. But even if someone says it to you, it's like you can't even take it on board. So you're never going to win in that way. So you start to take it on board. And from there, you can actually, start living your life with purpose, with that fulfillment. And the other thing is your relationships can improve, because you can start to ask for what needs you have. You can have more compassion to what the other person might be going through and what you're going through. And you're no longer needing to be in defense about things that are triggering you. Or if you get triggered, because as I said, I'm still working on it too. It's not just to quickly do this and we're done forever, but there's always stuff that comes up. But you can be curious, what's going on? Why am I feeling this way? And so it just changes that from being critical to being curious and open and allowing a whole lot more to come into your life. And then this is almost the end of my little share, but this is what I really think, be you, love you, always, always. And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful quote.
That is beautiful.
Yeah. And so I've just got, that's just my website if anyone is interested in knowing anything more about what I do. And also I do have just a 30-minute breakthrough session which is all about It Starts With Me, which is to really help you to sort of determine what's the things that are blocking you from actually having the things that you really want. So we get really clear on what goals you have, what dreams and visions. And I found a lot of people who are very dedicated to other people, such as health professionals. Even when I ask, what would you love? They say things like more better patient staff ratios, or, as a nurse, like some of those things that are still, which is great. And I agree with them. But what about you personally? What's that selfish thing that's going to light you up? What's your big reason why, So it's getting clear with the goals, getting clear with the dreams and the hopes. And then we actually determine, well, what is it that's stopping you from getting that at the moment? And so that's just a free session that I have. So you'll definitely come away with some more awareness. I'm actually starting a group coaching program in a few weeks. And if it's, if it feels like a good fit, well, then that opportunity's there too. But you don't have to do that. It's just one of those things that you can get a lot of value. And I definitely love helping people to really understand that this is true, that it does start with yourself first, even though most people don't talk about it like that.
Thank you so much, Lauren.
You're welcome.
What you're saying, I'll have a share here. I had a breakthrough session with Lauren the other day, and she asked me what I wanted, and I said I want to help nurses and make them realise they don't have to sacrifice themselves and all that. And I was doing the same thing. I was making it all about other people and not about me. So Yeah, it was really insightful. And
Yeah.
I've signed up, I'm gonna go on Lauren's program because I believe we
I'm
are
looking forward
always
to having you.
equally.
That's the sort of people I attract is people like you, Elena, who they have big visions about how they want to go out and help the world. And that's so, and I do too. I want to change the whole way we view health and how we can really support each other. And instead of it being so hierarchical and feeling blamed and, like powerless and, which in a way is like feeling like a victim or feeling like a pinball in a machine that's just battered around, actually taking that sort of step up to self-responsibility. And that's why, once again, I do think it starts with me. And it's because of my own journey that I can see what I was doing and how that was really upsetting me in so many parts of my life and how that's turned around. That, I think it's,
And I love your concept of the honesty, responsibility, boundaries, and beliefs, because I think I'm good at the honesty, responsibility, and boundaries, but there's still a lot of beliefs they're holding me back. I feel like I could probably give more yet, but they're running in the background. That subconscious belief patterns they keep you small, as they say. They hold you back from what you really want to do.
so I actually had a quote, and I don't. Yeah, they do. And the thing is, they are subconscious. So I have some techniques that actually help us to access the subconscious mind and show us what's really going on, which is pretty cool. And it can be really quite confronting at times, but it's at the same time, it's sort of gentle and supportive, and we create a lot of support in the group to allow people to sort of go through that. But yeah, the more and more you clear, the more and more you can feel confident to go to some of those places and see, well, what is holding me back? Because you know that it's actually holding you back and that it is just running subconsciously. So there's no judgment about that. And then when you get it, you're like, oh my God, isn't that amazing? And sometimes we see that we think that one thing causes another. And then when we actually do the work, we get a complete opposite. It's like we go, oh no, it's because of this, that's why that's happening. So it's like the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to work with you. I believe that we should continually have mentors in our lives. We need people to just keep pushing us to that next level so we can be that best version of ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. I think if you want to fast track anything, you get someone who's sort of been there, done that for you, can show you the way. Like, it was a lot to go through all of that, but like we often talk, you and I were talking the other day, sometimes these things, you look back in hindsight, and that whole burnout period, although I hated it at the time, it was now the biggest gift because it totally changed the direction of my life and, who I am now. Like, 5 years in the whole scheme of my life was a quite journey, but it's not like I was 5 years ago, I was there and then suddenly I'm here. Every day is getting better and better and better. So it is understanding that it is the journey and not the destination, that, that all those things that you hear sprouted and in your mind, or I might know that in my knowledge, but it's the actual embodying it into your body, and which sort of reminds me again that a whole lot of this work is about really feeling your feelings. And so that's where the mindfulness that you really taught comes in too, because when we get that present focus to where we are right now, a lot of the time things are really good. It's only when we start fantasizing about what might happen in the future, we start catastrophizing, how this could be, that it sets up this whole anxiety and just.
I heard a really good quote yesterday. I was watching another coach. In fact, he's an awesome guy, Matthew Hussey. If any of you are single or having relationship problems or whatever, he's a dating and relationship coach. And he did a free webinar yesterday, and I was watching it. And he described emotions as weather, like the clouds will come but they will go again, so when these stormy times come in our lives, they do clear and the sun will come back out. And I thought that was such an awesome kind of metaphor for it.
Yeah, it's like that other one, that every cloud has a silver lining.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And I think that's another part of how I teach about being responsible too, is sometimes we can look at things and go, there's no way I could be responsible for that. But actually, there's always different ways that we can look at things to actually help us be there. And part of it is that if you feel that, the universe or God or the source, whatever you want to call it, nature, power, whatever, But if you always believe that things are happening for you rather than to you, then that puts you more into that space of responsibility and allowing that, okay, at some level, this is happening. I mean, even this uncertain time at coronavirus, it's totally uprooted all of us. I mean, I haven't worked as a nurse since the 12th of March, and I can't get over that. I never, ever, since I turned 18 and started nursing, have ever been without nursing one day in my life. And yet, because I work in anaesthetics and recovery room, just like you, there's no elective surgery. Suddenly I don't have work. I'm like, it just is mind-blowing. And I think there must be so many people feeling the same way, that their whole view of the world has been completely corrupted. But it's also been this amazing chance to pause and again reflect on what do I really want here, because a lot of people, I've actually been enjoying not really going out, and giving myself this time, because I realise how busy I always am. Like I said, that indulgent self-care is not a thing really for me. And so being busy all the time, this is giving me a chance to just recognise how busy I really am, and to just take stock and notice and make some more changes.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean, I work in PACU, as a lot of people know, and I'm at home as well. Like, can't quite get my head around the fact there's this international health crisis, and I'm a nurse sitting at home. But I know there's hundreds, if not thousands, of us like it in Australia, especially at the moment. We're all sitting at home, but I'm looking at it the same way. Like, I'm a single parent, and it's so. My boys are 12 and 8. No, they're 11 and 7. Gosh, I'm wishing away. And it's such a nice time to be able to be at home and just get some cheeky time with them that I wouldn't normally have, because I'm always rushing around. Is the uniforms ready? Is the library books today? Is it sports uniform? Is it other uniform? And it's just this constant treadmill is go, 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 go. Whereas we can just completely relax. If they want to stay in their pajamas all day and do their schoolwork, fair enough, they can stay in their pajamas all day and do it. But
yeah, and it makes you realise, which was what was going on when I went in my burnout period. You're trying to juggle too many things at once, and you can't do any of it well, really. So it's I think it has really allowed us all in a way to look at life really differently. I mean, the nurses who are on the front line, that's just a total different story. And I give my love and appreciation, not just the nurses, all the health workers and police and everyone, the AMBOs and people who are out there sort of dealing in it. And I can't believe it, like we've just said. And, they're calling back nurses from retired nurses and things like that. And I'm like, but hang on a sec, I'm sitting here, as a private nurse or, in usually agency. So why aren't I being taken up? But
I'm in awe of all my healthcare colleagues and the other essential services. They're all out there doing their job. They're showing such incredible vulnerability and courage with it all.
Yeah.
I feel very grateful that I get to stay at home. But if it does escalate, I will be back out there with them all. But at the moment.
Yeah, I will be too. I'm in the process of signing on at the Austin Hospital, which is one of our big public hospitals in Melbourne. It's been ongoing since January, but I will eventually be sort of back there. But it just seems quite bizarre.
Yes, but it is what it is, and we can't fight against it. We just got to go with the flow.
No, that's right. Yeah.
Well, so lovely to chat to you this morning, as always, Lauren. Thank you.
Yeah, you too, Elena. Thank you for doing this. It's really great to have this opportunity to just sort of share. So
no worries. Thank you, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Happy Nurse podcast. If you've enjoyed today's content and would like to join the Happy Nurse community, head over to Facebook and check out the Happy Nurse AU Facebook page and request to join the Happy Nurse community. Also, check out happynurse.com.au for access to free downloads and subscription to my blog. See you soon, and in the meantime, remember to always offer yourself the same compassion that you so freely give to others. I'm excited to share with you all that I've contributed a chapter to the newly published Anxiety Relief Handbook The handbook provides a unique window into 11 highly effective complementary therapies for you to sample on your quest to ease anxiety. The ebook is available on my website, happynurse.com.au/anxiety relief handbook.